Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our live episode of Drinks and Daves. Hope everybody's having a great time, so grab your libations, grab your cigars, your cigarettes, or whatever you plan on smoking this evening as we get going. How you doing, Dave?
Oh, can you hear me, Dave?
Sure can. Can hear you great.
I'm all sorts of discombobulated, buddy. I think you
You're
saw it.
looking fine. I was watching and hoping, but you're doing
Yeah.
fine. Well,
So
it looks like we got 4 people out there. Please introduce yourself in our chat room, our Barfly chat room, and if you get lucky, maybe one of our waitresses will stop by and give you a drink. Hey, Frank, how you doing, buddy? Anyhow, so how was your day, Dave?
it was good until I realized I cut it a little close between leaving work and starting this thing. And so this is the first time I've done this outside, right? I haven't been able to share a cigar with you during this thing, and I'm like,
Right.
so as soon as I get home, my wife, I had about 10 minutes before we go, like, hold on.
Oh, wait,
Here's
Rich is
Rich.
here.
Welcome, Rich.
Yep, Rich is here.
But she's like, how can I help you? And I'm like, well, help me carry out, because we got the microphone, the camera, all this stuff. She goes, what else can I do? And I said, well, you could pick out my scotch for me. You pick out your cigar for me. But I don't know what's. So we did. So tonight's scotch and cigar via my wife's
Well,
choices.
tell Panteja thank you for helping you get through that, and we probably should get her a Barfly shirt. Then I would suggest.
I don't think
She wouldn't wear it. Well, no. Well, what
that.
about a Barfly Disney princess shirt?
Oh wow, custom shirt.
Made. Custom made.
Yeah.
And speaking of, guys, if you want your very own Drinks and Dave shirts, head on over to Barber Dave's Barbershop at Home for the time being, because that's where the shop is, and you can get hoodies and you can get coffee mugs and you can get we're going to be working on some scotch stuff and everything else as we get going. But the important thing is, guys, tell your friends, tell everybody, you need to go to Drinks and Dave's, that YouTube channel, and subscribe. The quicker you get subscribed to that channel, the quicker we can get to 100. You can stop watching on. Although we don't mind that you watch on our channels, we would prefer to have this in one channel whatsoever. Yeah, my day was interesting too. You know that Mondays are barber errand day. And so it was getting things going and getting up. And I did have an interesting wake-up call at about 6:30 in the morning, although I did want to stay asleep just a little bit longer. But some
I thought
nurse...
you said you wake up early anyway.
I do, but I went to bed at 3:30 last night. So I forced myself to stay up.
Wait, can we hear about your night then?
Sure. Well, as you can see, I finally got my green screen working. And
It's
that
beautiful.
was oh, you don't know the issues that went on with that. There's push pins in the ceiling. So I'm going to be buying a different one. And then, as you can see, and hopefully Rich and Frank and our other 3 folks that are out there can comment on how this mic sounds, because I was having some mic issues, and those of you that know me know that it's either go big or go home. So I went down to our local audio visual place, Guitar Center.
You didn't go home. Yeah, you didn't go home.
Yeah, I went to Guitar Center because I've spent enough money there, and I got a new boom arm, a new professional mic, new headphones, a new camera. So hopefully...
You're making me look bad, Dave.
No. Okay. Remember, you have, for those of you that know you, know that you have become my absolute favorite, and my absolute you have become what we call the CEC. You are the best.
Child.
I mean, you are the poster child for the CEC. So when I do these things, it's perfect because we want you to do that and everything else. And
Yeah,
so anyhow, back to
hey,
So back to my night. So we got that all figured out. And then if you were to see, because remember we both have lighting issues, and I've got a huge ring light that I had at the barber shop that I don't use. So that's in here. And this is all in my kitchen because I'm working on a studio in one of our bedrooms that's down the road. So I've got one of those. I've got two drop shop lights facing the green screen, hence the reason why the green screen is working. And then I've got my
Mm.
laptop. And then, as you've seen before, the coffee maker, the Breville, is right here. All my booze is right here, and right here. So I am basically encapsulated into about a 6 by 6 area. Oh,
That
and my humidor is right there.
that sounds
So
perfect.
it is.
Yeah.
It's very cozy. And speaking of that, I am smoking tonight. I don't know about you, but I am
Mm.
smoking tonight. The official cigar. We need to contact these guys. The
I did.
official
I did.
cigar. Oh, you did, of
Yeah.
Drinks and Dave's, the Metropolitan Host by Ferio Tego. Now, what are you smoking?
Now, see, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about that. Um, so how did it come about? Th- so there's a brand Nat Sherman that when I started smoking cigars back in my 20s was one of my go-tos, right? And then they got
Hmm.
bought by who? Somebody bought
Uh,
them.
Nat Sherman was bought
Sure.
by
Was it not
Upman,
David O?
H.
Up,
Upman.
was it?
Was it Upman?
No.
No, 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 no,
They
no,
were
no.
bought by somebody.
We're gonna have to
Um,
bring Tim from Cigars Daily on the show, and he can
that
tell
would
us
be awesome.
probably.
Yeah. But they ended up discontinuing the cigar line. But then you found, and I don't know how you knew I'd be interested, but you went to one of your local shops
Hmm.
and they had some Nat Shermans from back in the day
Right, right,
and
right.
bought all that you could. Oh, I know what it was. Is that I found these, the one you're smoking,
That's right.
and
That's right. That's right.
it was some of the guys that worked for Nat Sherman Cigar, and they started this brand
That's right. Ferio Tego, right?
to simulate or copy or whatever the blends. And so I said, "Hey, you ought to try this. This is great." And then you found the original Nat Sherman.
Right. Well,
So
and
anyway,
you did CEC me on these because, as you know, in fact, up here there is a stack of Metropolitan Host boxes because it is definitely my favorite cigar.
yeah. So what my wife, unbeknownst to me, went and picked out is one of the original Nat Shermans that you got me
Oh,
from your
cool.
local shop. So that's what I'll be smoking tonight. Is the origin of what you're smoking.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, you did say that you contacted them.
Yeah. I haven't heard back.
Okay, we'll talk about that. So
Yeah.
let's move on. Oh, now you're going to like this. So I figured I'm drinking, well, I'm kind of multi drinking, whatever that means. So first, we're drinking because we're trying to be healthy, is Virgil's Cola. And Virgil's Cola, if you're listening, we have plenty of room in our freezers. Then when I did over on my channel today, I did budget shaves, and these were all shaves that I could do for less than $2 buy stuff. And I just happened to use a Palmolive shave stick that I needed to soak in water, and I found this dusty and in the back, and you'll probably remember this, and those of you of a certain age will remember this, and maybe a tear will come down your eye. But I'm drinking Monkey Shoulder, which is a
Oh,
blended Scotch, and I'm drinking that in. Are you ready? An A&W miniature root beer.
oh
Now,
wow.
there's a story on these too, and I don't know if you remember, but when A&W Root Beer had the A&W Root Beer stands, they were a drive-through, and that drive-through, when you were a little kid, they gave these exact mugs full of root beer, and if you brought it back
Mm.
every time, you got some of the A&W root beer, and so this is the one that I had when I was a
Whoa.
kid, some 40, 50 years ago, that my dad got me. And I've been, it's just been sitting in the shave den, just collecting dust. And I figured, so I washed it, and I'm gonna cheers to Dad, cheers to A&W root beer.
That's
So
awesome. It looks like, I mean, the paint on that is still fresh.
yeah, it's been my mom. I didn't even know. I didn't even know my mom had it. And when she passed away in 2016, we started going through boxes and boxes and boxes,
Mm.
and I found it. And at first I was like, "Oh, isn't that cute?" And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Nostalgia. I think as you get older, nostalgia has a tendency to get to yes, Major Rich, the frosted tiny mug. And then and then as you can see, I did the whole thing now. So we should be. And so those of you out in the bar, tell me, how does this mic sound compared to my last mug? So please comment on that. And it was actually a Zoom call that we had for game night that Chad runs that this came about because apparently they couldn't hear Sharon. And of course, never being one to lose an opportunity,
That's right. Yeah.
I said, "Oh, wait a minute. That means I need to go buy new stuff." So that's
Oh,
it.
wait. Instead of you enabling me to buy stuff, maybe I should just be the hand-me-down guy.
Well, I would say that, but that mic is actually there's a certain individual that has already claimed
All right, all right.
that. But so, how was the weather there today? I know what you're going to say, and I'm going to be pissed, but that's okay.
Then I won't say anything at all. It's actually, I complained about the heat this weekend, the heat, because we
Uh-huh.
got into the 80s, and if I have to sweat a little bit, that's uncomfortable. This is perfect. This is like, I don't know,
Okay. Oh
71 and
God.
yeah.
Well, I know that you had mentioned earlier that there's that we could actually do a live show together if we were to purchase your
Oh,
the house next door.
the house next door, yeah.
And as long as Avocado Queen could grow avocados, that was great. And I can hear the birds in the background, and I know that I would sit out on the deck and watch the planes landing. I mean,
Right.
it really would be perfect until you told me the price.
Right. It's
That
California money.
that's a little bit prohibitive at this point in time. Instead of having a live show with all this nice equipment, basically I would be banging on a drum with a stick.
Well, if you raise the price of your haircuts to $250,000 a purse.
Yeah, that's true. I
All
could
right.
do it in one, two, three, four. I could do it in five, 8 haircuts, 10 haircuts. Yeah, that would be good. And if I could make that much, no offense, but if I could make that much a haircut, I'd be living on an island somewhere.
That'd be all right. So
But
you came up with this idea for today's topic. So what
yes,
what were you thinking?
well, I'm thinking tonight's episode is going to be us talking, and hopefully the the
The
our
barflies?
barflies talking
Yeah.
about DIY projects that we've done. So those of you that have done DIY projects, just put it in the chat, and we'll get to it as we can. And then when we should have actually called a professional. Now the problem is sometimes when we do that type of stuff and we do DIY projects, and we find out that we've gone too far, this type of thing happens. That type of thing happens
Whoa.
over and over again. Now, can anybody that's out there, can anybody identify that clip? Because you've heard it in almost every single cinematic movie that has been placed out. In fact, anytime that you see somebody that is hurting or gets, it's been Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he falls off the cliff, you hear in any of the MCU movies and somebody falls through something. In Star Trek, when they get blown out the airlock. And this is actually called the Wilhelm scream, and it was from a movie that was in the 1940s, and it was about a guy that was getting attacked by an alligator, and it just became part of cinematic legend. And I found it, and I figured that it would
Well,
be perfect.
that just shows that, while our production quality might be up and down, at some places we spare no expense.
No, oh, in fact, I wish I had that clip of him saying that in Jurassic Park. Spared no
Spare
expense.
no.
So yeah, so it was just an idea since we don't have a guest to talk about DIY projects and really what the onus to this was because you and I are both. Oh, and, we forgot to ask. So what watch are you wearing today? I already know, but
What watch am I wearing? Are we doing that now?
yeah,
It's going to be upside down, but this is a beautiful. It's a cheapie from, I don't know, China. Well, cheapie under 200 Seagull, but I love the styling of it. Yeah,
yeah, it's a beautiful seagull.
first day wear for that.
Hello, P. Beat, Glenn Fittich. That's good to hear. And yes, Rich, the alligator was biting a certain part. I think it was underwater, so we never really knew where that was going from. But I'm wearing my since, and then actually, what you wore yesterday is the reason why I'm wearing this. This is my Bell and Ross BX05 with the ice blue dial.
Beautiful. Well, and before you get into how you screwed up your house the first time, finishing up the Loch Lomond 18 year is what my wife picked. I think just because it
Nice.
was out on a counter. So
You know, one
here
thing
we
that
go.
should be mentioned.
Cheers.
Well, cheers. And one thing that should be mentioned also is on Nurse Dave's channel, every once in a while, he also does, and that'd be kind of fun to do for a show, is do fragrances. We could figure out what we have, send them to each other, and then because him and his lovely wife do
Yeah.
fragrance reviews, and they're very, very good, and they're very, very comprehensive. And so you need to check those out, and you can look in his archive on his channel on Nurse Dave Shaving World to do that. So the what prompted me to come up with this DIY project thing when you should have called a professional is when you called me that one day and you were working out on your carport and something happened to your
Ugh.
watch. So I'll let
Yeah.
you tell that story.
I thought I did. I thought I did on this one. You called me out the last time.
Well,
Yeah.
say it again because I
But
have no
but but
memory apparently.
yeah. Yeah, so my daughter's bike is locked up in our carport, and I don't remember what I was doing to it. I think putting the cover on or off of it or something like that. And I'm reaching my hand around and didn't think about it. And one of my much higher ender watches than this scraped along the cinder block of that wall, and I had that brief second where I did not want to look and see if now, this was a minuscule thing, right? You wouldn't have called a professional, but I think that's what you're getting at is sometimes you cause more damage or expense than if you would have just done it in the first darn place, called somebody that knew what they were doing.
Exactly. Well, my first one, and I say that my first one was that I am no longer allowed, but shh, don't say anything in case she's watching. I am no longer allowed to get on ladders. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Years ago, when I was driving, a high profile, like a tour coach, we used to have to clean the windows and climb up. And I had fallen off a ladder from like 13 feet up and smacked my head and, kind of blacked out for a little while, which could explain a lot of what's going on with me now. But here at home, you when you're putting up Christmas lights, now our roof line is about 25 feet high. And when you're putting up Christmas lights, it's a
Mm.
pain in the butt to, first of all, you have to undo the ladder. You put it up against the house, and then you trudge up the ladder. You hook four lights, and then you have to trudge down the ladder and then move it. Well, if you ever saw the movie Animal House, perfect example, and he was checking out the co-eds. Let's just put it that way to keep it clean. And he went up the ladder and enjoyed what he was doing, and then he figured they switched rooms. So what I figured is, okay, if he can do it, if John Belushi can do that, and then I can just move the ladder by just jumping up
Oh,
using
oh,
gravity and landing, jump up, land, jump up, land. There's a problem with that insofar as that when you do that and you have uneven ground, then you have a tendency to have gravity take over. And when
yeah.
gravity takes over, it hurts. And so my wife went, or actually, we were in Walmart one time, and it's actually really cool. It looks like a snake grabber. With the snake, like if
Mhm.
you need to grab us, well, you don't, you're in San Francisco, but
If you,
here,
if you
yeah,
need to
yeah.
grab a snake, I'm sorry, we
Well,
don't
yeah,
have those in our
it's a
house.
different type of snake grabbing there, but here we have rattlesnakes and bull snakes and, and lions and tigers and bears. You're supposed to say, oh my. Oh, well. Anyways,
Oh my.
thank you. So it extends out 14 feet and it's got a trigger on it. and you lock the clips that go underneath your eaves into this thing, and then just hold it up, press the trigger, and boom, it puts them in, and then you can take the lights and just string them up that way. So I never have to get on a ladder anymore. It's really cool,
That's cheating.
but it's also keeping me from the emergency room. So that's one story of many that we'll talk about. So let's go and take one from our folks, and it looks like Frank has got the first one, and I'll read that.
Yeah.
DIY lesson learned: changing the headlights on a 2001 4Runner is a task best suited for a trained mechanic, not a network administrator. And that's
Did you
very,
turn it
very
off and
true.
turn it back on again, Frank? I think that would just reset it.
Yeah. Well, and part of the problem of DIY projects now, I think, is that, and I found this out changing the headlights and taillights on my Chevy Avalanche. Basically, it used to be that you pop the light cover off, you unplug the Sylvania round headlight, and you put the cover back on. Oh, no, 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 no. Now you have to basically take the entire front end of the car off. So I
Yeah.
watched a video because I had asked my mechanic, what it would cost. And I went, I can do it myself. So you watch a YouTube video, and what you don't realize is that YouTube video has been cut, edited, and so it seems like it's a 5-minute project. Well, again, this happened, and I ended up having to sneak up to the mechanic with no headlights in my car because I couldn't figure it out. And so that happens.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Dave? Any other things that?
Well, you know what I'm terrible at, and I think anybody that's bought a house that's not, that's more than 15 or 20 years old, you see stuff the previous owner has done, and they'd be like, what a cheapskate. They didn't know what they were doing, right? They did just to get by. And I've felt the same way, except I realized I started doing those things, right? Like whenever I wanted to hang something on the wall, I was thinking about that this morning, that I've got an aversion to putting big holes in on the wall. And I need to get over that because I'll use the smallest thing I possibly can. But I know how much weight that can handle, right? And so I'm like, you got to be a little careful with this shelf and that shelf and all that. But then I realize, somebody else could plop something. So that's what I need to get over, is using nice meaty whatevers to hang stuff on the walls, and then not be afraid of patching drywall, which that's what I'm afraid of, is
Right.
having that maybe apartment patch where you see the square and it's smooth when the rest of the wall's textured, and
Sure.
that's what
Sure.
holds me back. Yeah.
Well, and I get that, and I think what happens too is like the cost of professionals now has gone just crazy stupid. When another one, I changed the headlights, I was going to change the headlights to LED in my car, and I took one look at it, and Rich knows this. I took one look at it and said, "Oh no," because you spend $1,600 on headlights, and I'm not going to screw that up. So I went and took it up there, and yeah, you pay the price, but they have a warranty. If it gets
Yeah.
screwed up, they will fix it. So those are the things. Now, our biggest DIY guy is in our bar right now, and that is our good friend, the guy that we tell and we talk to and everything else, and that is Major Rich. So Rich, I'm hoping that you will tell us at least a little bit about some of the DIY projects that you've done, because I know there's a few. So we'll
You
wait
know,
for. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's the same there, but especially with home projects, the problem is here there's so much building and huge renovation. If you need something small done, it's really hard to find a contractor. So we had one time water leak down into the whatever on the roof into the main power box. See, you can tell how knowledgeable I am in health stuff. But, but they had to really replace the whole big power box thing on the side of the house. But all the houses around here are stucco, so
Sure.
you gotta chip out the stucco, which is like that chicken wire and the lath and all that stuff. And they unfortunately did it the right way with permits and everything, which means that the guy had to come out. And after they replaced it, you've got to get somebody to fix the stucco before they'll sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
Finding somebody to come and just repair stucco in a small, that was the hardest thing. Nobody wanted to come and do it because it was too small of a job.
Sure, sure, and that's the problem. So P Beats says doing your own landscaping is great, unless like me, you kill the shrubs by pruning them. Wife didn't approve. Oh, that brings up a subject. We have, as you know, we have a fairly large property, and so we used to, when I was a little bit more spry, take the chainsaw, cut things down, and then haul them across, and then make a big stack in the middle of the yard, and then let that come down. But lately, we've been, hiring somebody to come and trim the trees, and we've got a ton of mesquite trees. Well, the philosophy of what my wife has for trees and what my philosophy is totally different. I want to create this umbrella like look and cut off anything in the middle so it just looks like a really nice thing. Sharon, on the other hand, she likes a little bit more natural looking, and so that is a constant battle, whether you do it yourself or whether you do it. And one of the biggest discussions we have is I can do that. So I'll point at a tree and say, well, I want him to do this. No, no, no. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. No, 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 no. I'll take care of it. No. And we both do this. And then finally, at the end of the day, it doesn't really get done all the time. So,
You know what? But this is not P Beat's fault, because that's an art form, I think. Because
mm-hmm,
first, it's knowledge. You got to know some plants, you prune the hell out of them, right? And sometimes once a year you cut everything back and it grows back, so you got to know what's what. But then I'm impressed. The people with like the nice shrubs that are like the sharp lines and all that
mm-hmm,
stuff, you got to know what you're doing, because I learned the hard way that you can prune off all the living stuff, and what you're left is like a box shape of like dead
mm-hmm.
twigs and stuff like that. So, you know,
Yeah, exactly. And, during Halloween, that's not a bad look. I mean, that's that that's
put your
that's really
put your webs on there.
exactly. So
Okay.
our good buddy Rich says he tried replacing a sump pump anti-backup valve. It went poorly. Now see that right there. I understood sump pump and it went poorly. Everything else was complete gibberish to me. And so plumbing and electrical is the scariest.
Electrical, yeah, 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 yeah. You don't touch that. I
Well,
did. In a house that I owned up in Oregon. This is the most proud I've been, and I'm living off of it 30 years down the road. Is I renovated a bathroom. Right, it had a tub. I pulled the tub out, made a shower stall and a storage unit next to it. Did wainscoting, turned out beautifully. Did my own tiling, turned out beautifully. What I learned from that, though, was I put carpet in the bathroom.
mhm.
And I kind of thought, how come more people don't have carpet in your bathroom? This is luxurious, right? You're sitting there, whatever, and it's nice and soft and warm. And well, it just took a couple of toilet overflows and having to replace the entire carpet that I realized this is why people don't put carpet in their bathroom.
It's funny you mention that because we did the same exact thing. And now there is no carpet in our bathrooms because, like I said, and then when you get out of the shower, if you have a little area rug, that's cool, that's waterproof, but you get out of it 100 times, and then underneath that carpet, there could be some dampness, and then there is that odor that it's like, what is that? Did somebody take a crap in the shower? No, and it's not. It's mildew that's been building up. And so I think you're right. That's why the professionals will say, why the heck did you put carpeting in the bathroom? you know?
Yeah, well, because it's luxurious for
Exactly. Oh, and look who's
no.
here.
Oh, yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, I like this. So
yeah.
we have somebody here by the name of Pantea that says, and it says, Do you have pictures? If you don't have pictures, I don't believe it. Do you have pictures, Dave?
It's that was before cameras, Dave. I don't think I have pictures of
And we'd
that.
like to welcome Stephen. Stephen is here. We'd like to welcome him, and I can
Hey,
guarantee you, because Stephen was fortunate enough to be a new homeowner, secondary homeowner, and he's putting projects together. So I'm sure he has some stuff. So let's see what else we have.
well,
Okay,
we
so
got to
another
this.
one.
This one's cute. We got to
Oh,
call this
okay,
one out.
okay.
That Tig Lily made green corn tamales once, and nobody died, but they were good. So, but yeah, tamales. That's a whole thing, right? I mean, like you hear about families getting together and
hmm
spending the whole dang day doing that stuff.
Well, and there's another story here, and I'm not sure if it was my wife's mom or if it was her. And there's a dish that we make. We obviously, as you know, we eat Mexican food almost constantly, and it's a a chicken green chili casserole. And what you do is you just take tortilla chips, green chili enchiladas or green enchilada sauce, chicken, and you just cook it with cheese and everything else. And you serve it with sour cream and lettuce, just good stuff. Well, we had eaten it and everybody was going crazy about it and everybody loved it. And then the realization was that somebody forgot to put the chicken in the chicken enchilada casserole and nobody knew the difference. So yeah, nobody knew the difference because I
All
think
right.
it has a little bit of chicken stock in it, and stuff like that. So here's
So wait
another
a
one.
minute.
Okay,
Do you buy canned sauce?
enchilada sauce, yeah. And the
Yes.
reason why is because Sharon has made enchilada sauce from scratch, and it's just as labor intensive as Mexican food is. Like you have to be a Mensa person to make Mexican food if you do everything from scratch.
Okay, maybe that, because I was going to say, when I think of Mexican food, it's the opposite. It's the same darn ingredients, but in different shapes. You got beans, meat, salsa, cheese, and then some kind of tortilla or a shell or lettuce, and right? And it's all
Well,
this,
what I can say
but that's
is you,
American.
yeah, you and your better half need to come and see us for the Gem Show. We'll take you to real Sonoran Mexican food. So here's another one from Rich. My most spectacular failure was I tried to tuck point a crumbling chimney. So see right there, I don't even know what tuck point is, so we'll have to ask him about that. The old mortar had been mixed with river sand, and the chimney disintegrated in my hands. The chimney ended up super crooked. So basically, he had a hobbit house.
Oh, that's kind of cute.
Yeah, that would be
Something like
cool.
that.
That would
Yeah.
be that would actually be cool. And one thing that Dave and I have discussed at some later point in time that we may invite. They may not show up, but we may invite our better halves to be
Mm.
green screened out. So in other words, you would hear this. Yes, I am the wife of this person. So they would be completely and to tell bad stories about, well, probably true stories, but
Wait,
probably bad stories.
I don't know. I think you said that. I don't think I said
Yeah,
bad
but see, the
stories.
thing is, I know that a certain individual, if I bribe her with Disney princess stuff, I'm golden. I'm golden. I'm golden. So
Jeez.
here's one from Trunker. Dixon says, "My wife can kill plastic pants. Plastic pants? No, plastic plants.
Only
So
wear
I
leather pants, not pleather. Do not. The sweat in pleather pants is ridiculous.
so I do
Oh,
gardening, but plumbing and electrics I pay for. A real quick electrical story. My brother-in-law was in the HVAC business, air conditioners, stuff like that. Very good. And one time we were up on his mom's house fixing an electrical issue with her swamp cooler. And for those of you folks that don't know what a swamp cooler is, it's basically an evaporative cooler because out here we have no humidity part of the year. And Stephen Haysai would know about that. And we use evap coolers because they use hardly any energy at all. You can keep your windows open, and you can get the temperatures really nice and cold. But anyway, so he was fixing that, and for whatever reason, he feels comfortable around electrical. I don't. I mean, like if I'm working on one thing at one side of the house, I turn off the whole house And then I still check because I'm afraid there's something that's going to zap me. And and up on top of the roof for these coolers, it's 220. I mean, this is deadly stuff
Mm.
that can hit you. And I remember he got nailed. And at that point, I said, number one, I will never help you again. Number two, you could have died. Number three, I don't care how much it costs when it comes to electrical, except maybe changing light bulbs. But even then, you have to think about it. No, I'm kidding.
Maybe your wife can do that for you.
Exactly. Uh,
So wait, you
and
said not plumbing or electrical. I agree on the electrical, but again, going back to 30 years ago, I had to. It was a tub, and I turned it into a shower, right? So the drain's in slightly different spot, and you don't have the spout and whatever. And so I did that myself. I was super proud that you get the solder and the blowtorch, and the whole DIY. Yeah, right. The whole DIY part of that is that there's insulation in the wall where the pipes were that I'm soldering. And so I'd have to blow the fire out on the insulation from time to time from the blowtorch, soldering those things shut. So the
so,
professional might have put some protection behind it or something,
so
but
you could have basically burned down the house.
yeah, if I wasn't paying attention.
All
Yeah.
right. Here's one from PB. You don't know a ladder has splinters until you slide down it. Oh, God. And that was Bum Phillips that said that. And we have, I haven't gone out. I mean, we've got the type of ladder that you extend that goes up against the house. Now there's dangers there too, because when you're putting that ladder down, it's got these little hooks that hook,
Yeah.
as you're putting it
On the
up.
bottom.
Now,
Oh
right.
yeah.
Now, if you flip those hooks up and you let the ladder go,
Ooh, watch
exactly,
your
that
fingers,
can
buddy.
that can tear your fingers out.
So
But we
wait a minute.
also have, yeah,
You were a fireman at one point.
yes.
Should you not be a ladder expert?
Well, when you have professional ladders, yes, because there's always people watching you and you take it, you go slow up the ladders. But when you're
Oh,
doing DIY, you've been on the roof 100 times, right? No big deal. You just fly up and down the ladders. But when you're taking the ladder down, most of these firefighting ladders have automatic retraction. These don't, and you can chop your fingers off.
yeah.
But we also have one of those rickety old, and PB probably knows what I'm talking about, these rickety old ladders that that fold out, but they're made of wood. They're like $3.95 at Home Depot. Yeah, that was part of what I was doing last night, and I actually was allowed to get up on the ladder. So I was very proud of myself being able to stick a push pin in the
Maybe
ceiling.
we need to tell your wife for Christmas you should get a fiberglass ladder to replace that with.
Well, actually, what I want is one of those ones that folds out in 5 different locations. You can make a
Oh, like
scaffolding out of it.
as seen on TV.
Yes, yes. I don't know. That's
Oh,
like out here, we don't have grass lawns, we have weeds and we have rocks. But I want a riding lawnmower so bad I can taste it.
well,
For
yes.
what? I don't know
It
because
doesn't matter. You just need to ride it around on it with your cigar, and and she'll say, "What are you doing?" I'm surveying my land. That's what I'm doing. I'm riding the perimeter like they did in Yellowstone.
oh, Dave, I will say we are having a request, so I'll put that up on the
Yeah, I
screen
saw.
right now. Oops.
The next time I use a blowtorch, for sure.
Yeah. So, everybody has pretty much told us a little bit about some of the DIY projects they've done, except for Stephen. Stephen, why don't we type something that you've done?
He's,
Yes, this is what I want. This.
remind me. I'll try to find it. I've seen a video of somebody on one of those things when it's not quite latched all the way, so you're kind of halfway out, and then like the joint falls apart, and yeah, I don't think I'd ever get on one of those things.
Well, and the thing is, we haven't bridged this subject yet because we try to go different types of subject matter. But one thing that was said early on is talking about shave accidents. Now, we are both professionals. So
Right.
we're the ones that they would call. However, that being said, there are times when a professional can mess up. And here's one word to the wise that I'm sure everybody knows. If a straight razor drops out of your hand, do not, under any circumstances, try to catch it. And also shave fully clothed because there are things that could get in the way of said dropped razor. Now, that has not happened to me. I swear it has not. But I
Good.
have tried to catch a straight razor when it's falling, and some of the guys here have seen the damage that that does.
I really don't even know what to say, Dave. You opened too many doors that I don't even want to walk through. You know.
Ah, come
So,
on. But no, I
so
mean, well, it's funny, and I think what happens, and this ties into the DIY versus professional thing, that you get complacent. In other words, you've done the same shave for so many years, and you've used the same razor, and you just fly around, and the next thing you know, Murphy shows up and decides that whammo, Stumpy.
so Stephen mentions this leaving paint. So I'll say this is another. So I'm terrible with not maybe securing things as secure as they should be, and then painting. I'm notorious for prepping as little as possible, and so most of the time when I'm painting in the house, I'll lay down a drop cloth, but I don't tape anything off. And I kind of figure if I use the roller slow enough, it's not going to spatter much, and then I can edge just with a brush. And when we rented out our house that I had painted inside just not too long before they moved in, on the they do an inspection, and one thing they wrote on almost every room is there was paint splatters on the wind. What are the things on the windows? The mesh,
Oh, okay, okay.
Anyway, apparently it splatters a little bit more than I think. But boy, that takes too long, right? Tape. Do you do that? Do you tape
Oh, okay.
and plastic sheets?
You
And
do realize I'm married to an engineer, correct? That
does
should
she tape
answer
it?
any question that you have regarding any project. That because projects, because in my mind, I look at a project and say, 45 minutes. I can get it done in 45 minutes. My wife, on the other hand, will take a day to plan the exact logistics of this project, then the application of said project, and in this case, painting. Everything gets taped perfectly, and of course, it frustrates me because I'm thinking we could be on to project number 6, and we're still on project number 1. But I have to admit freely, and everybody here and those people that know Sharon know that I'm admitting this, that her projects always come out better. And she does one thing that a lot of DIYers do is they save things because eventually that item that you saved can be used for a project. Where I, on the other hand, are like, no, just I'm never going to use this. Throw it away. And then
What the
inevitably,
heck? You guys have got role reversal there. That's usually the guy, right? That'll say like, "Well, these two screws might come in handy 15 years from now."
well, Sharon does say that I'm her bitch. So, I guess maybe that may have something to do.
Checks out. Checks out.
Excuse me. Her female dog. I guess I don't know if we can even say this on Reddit, but no,
We're smoking cigars. We're drinking scotch. I think you know.
and drinking scotch out of A&W root beer glasses too. No, I think, and it's funny. It takes a live show for me to admit this because I won't admit it a lot of times in front of her. That when she plans a project, yes, it may take 6 to 7 years, but it does get done and it's perfect. So, uh-oh. um,
Yeah,
well,
so
you know
so
what?
here's a guy that does it right too. Full day to prep for. But you're right. I mean, doing it the right way, right? I mean, but that's the whole point of. Are you doing it the right way, or are you doing it the
Well,
DIY?
Stephen brings up a good point. So if you take a full day to prep for paint, and Sharon would agree, you tape everything off, you know which part you're going to edge, and then of course after the taping, then you do the edging. You do the edge in, and then you can take the roller and go nuts. But my philosophy has always been that okay, I'm not going to tape, I'll paint, and I'm pretty good at controlling where the paint goes. And if I get a little overspray or a little overroll, then I take the original paint from the the trim paint, and I go back over the trim. I mean, what is wrong? And then what have I done there? I have saved tape.
Perfect.
See?
I was just going to say this whole day to prep to paint probably is a time saver because I'm just thinking about how slowly you have to go if it's not taped off. And it's funny because I think every time I paint about halfway through, I realize that. I'd be like, this is taking me so freaking long. If I would have just taped this stuff, but then and then you forget that when it comes time to do it again.
So P Beat wins the Comment of the Day award. Mo Howard once said that Drinks and Daves was a major influence for the Three Stooges. And actually, I can figure who that would be. That would be you, me, and Rich.
Rich,
If we
okay, so
did projects.
Dave, here's why we can't have our wives on the show. You're going to hear this for an hour.
Well, but but you know what? That keeps us
That's all right. Yeah, I'm okay with
honest.
that.
It
I'm all
keeps
right
us
with that.
honest. And it's just amazing how different DIY projects. Oh, okay. Here's and I'm going to put this out to the barflies. Why is it okay? You're painting a house. You're painting an exterior, and maybe people know this, and maybe I'm just a lunkhead and I don't understand it. Okay, so you've got color paint. Okay, gray, green, blue, brown, black, whatever the case may be. Okay, why, pray tell, are
Do not
painters
paint the
wearing?
outside of your house black.
Well, I understand that. I was just using that for
Go ahead.
illustration. So let's
I know
remove
what you're going to
black.
say now. Yeah.
Why do painters, all professional painters, wear white? I don't get it. Does anybody know
That's
the
a
answer to
very
that
good
question?
point.
Yeah.
Let's sit
And
here in silence until we get.
exactly. I mean, I don't know if people have pondered that before because it's like you see a painter and they walk into Sherwin-Williams or they walk into a paint store and they're wearing white dungarees and a white shirt, and I've always wondered why. Does that prove to their bosses that they've been working? Maybe. Hey, I've got
Hmm.
paint all over me. That means I was doing
Yeah,
that job.
but shouldn't the more professional, the higher skilled painter have less stuff on there?
Exactly. Now, if I hired a painter, Pantea says the color keeps you cool.
Mm,
That's a valid point. But to me, if you hire a painter and he shows up in an Armani suit, that's the guy to hire. Because you know what? If he's going to paint in a $2,000 suit, he ain't going to get himself dirty.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, there you go. So PBeat says that I think the white, like in medical environments, suggests an emphasis on professionalism. But, speaking of that, it's not really a DIY thing, but do you still see people wearing a lot of white in the hospital environment, or do you have multicolors now?
Well, the coats are still white.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it depends where you work. Some places it's just doctors wearing coats. Our hospital, everybody under the sun gets a white coat.
Really? Well, that's kind of cool. Now, does that
Uh,
mean because anybody gets a white coat and they're the long lab coats that they can say, want to buy a watch? Do
oh,
they
I
do that?
wish. If I could buy watches just walking down the hallway at work, I could probably never come home.
Okay, oh, that's good. Pantea says, but really, Google says it hides white paint stains. See, this is why it's important to have people like this in our audience because we have
Right.
somebody that has excellent Google foo.
Now,
Pantea
could
is
that,
just
and I
on it,
guess
on it.
maybe you paint white more than any other color, or probably eggshell,
Aha.
right?
Ha.
So, what
Very.
is it?
See,
Rich says something. I'm sure it's very important. Let's see. Try wallpapering with your spouse when neither of you done it before. Oh, and most overhead paint is white. Yeah, that wallpapering, boy, that looks like a
do people still do that?
pain in the.
Is
I
wallpapering
don't
still a
know.
thing?
I don't know. You could. Oh, here, PB. Let's read this, and then I got another short little story. My
Okay.
second fail using a Wagner power painter paint the garage. Bugs seem to like fresh paint. Yeah, what do you do then? If you got a paint and you got bugs in the environment, you're kind of hosed, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you basically have
I mean,
what.
it adds texture.
Well, but if somebody comes over and you point that and they look at that and they say, "What's that?" You say, and if you have to do it in an accent, you say, "Well, the reason why this is like this is because we wanted to texture it with the natural insects of the location." See? So, and that's worth an extra
Valid,
$500 right there, you know. Oh, and
valid.
speaking of that, what about concrete work? I've never done it other than mixing up. Well, I shouldn't say that. I've mixed up, that quickcrete to like dig a post hole or something like that.
Oh, yeah. So, so again, up in Oregon, I built a quote white picket fence. Very proud of myself. Looked beautiful, and I did buy a power sprayer to do that. Right, because you got all the little edges and all that. It would be impossible to do by hand. And I had to, partway through, I think I had to go buy more paint or something like that. And the checkout person at Home Depot made a comment about me being covered in, spray from this paint and saying, you really should wear a respirator because I guess apparently because it was on my face and stuff too, it was apparent I wasn't wearing a mask. And she made the point of like, all that stuff that's hitting your face is going into your lungs too. It's like,
Well, yeah, but at the same
that's
time,
not
though,
a
as
bad
you're
point.
talking about that, what are you holding in your hand?
We don't inhale, Dave. Come on.
Okay, Mr. Clinton, whatever you say, sir. No, but yeah, I mean that. The biggest fail. Those things you buy at Home Depot that say, let me get into my commercial. Would you like a walkway in your household? Well, instead of paying a contractor to do a walkway, we have these forms. And these forms go on the ground. You just pour the Quickcrete on, and then when it dries, you pull them off and then move along.
Did you do that? Did you
No,
try
because
to
I
do that?
know no, because I know what would end up happening. I would just have a bunch of cement rocks laying all over the yard. No, no, no. I am one of those type, much to the chagrin of my wife, that if it's a project like that, get an estimate, pay it.
Yeah, but I tell you, that's one thing I wouldn't mind the when you get a paved driveway with actual oh, that looks sweet.
But do you know
That
what the
look
cost of those are? I mean, we've got. In fact,
no.
we're
I'm just
looking
saying
at
it looks
that now.
sweet.
Well, we're looking at that in our driveway, as long as it is. I mean, that's a $15,000 job. And it's like, yeah, it looks pretty, and I would love to
Well,
have it, but
we'll get back to raising your prices to $1,000 a
exactly.
haircut. And
Oh,
so
here's one.
this is a good point, right? That if your walls are uneven,
Mm-hmm.
then like a textured. Well, plus also if you own a Chinese restaurant, isn't it mandatory that half of those have a textured red wallpaper on them?
It's a good point.
Do they say,
We're gonna
yeah?
get we're gonna get letters from our Chinese population. Thank you, Dave.
It was a question.
Oh, okay, okay. So here's one from Steven. By the way, speaking of inhaling paint, the paint can on top of the ladder landed squarely on my head. Oh, you know what, Stephen? Such as the Zoom calls, this will not be used for any custom titles on the shaving cadre, so you're safe with that. But that brings up so many possibilities.
Oh, so here you have another vote for paving your driveway, Dave. And
Well,
so
we
so
are going
what
to
is
do
this?
part of it.
People that pay for dog grooming, are they cheap? Well, heck no. Well, no, because from what I've seen in the pet store, some dogs do not enjoy it. I've seen them battling with some dogs, and you want them mad at somebody else, right? It's like you learned in the nursing thing. I was a pediatric nurse, and sometimes when we had to like put in IVs and stuff like that, and that we would tell the parents, let them be mad at us. We'll go do this. We'll bring them back. You hug them, comfort them. You be the good guy. I say same with dog grooming.
Well, it's amazing that Tig Lily seems to know so many
Yeah,
things.
insider knowledge.
Exactly, just great insider knowledge. Well, we have most of the people here know Kona, aka El Doggo, aka the real Wile E. Coyote, and he is the one that had the attack. Well, I don't want to say attack. He attacked a Colorado river toad, but that's only because he wanted to get stoned out of his gourd, I think. But anyways, I prefer to have the dog groomed for two reasons. One, now most people say, what does a husky German shepherd need to get groomed for? Well, come over to my house in the summer. They have short hair, sure, but at the same time, they shed that hair like you would not believe. So, having them groomed, I am terrified to cut the quick on a dog's
Oh,
nail. I'm terrified of it. So they do that. They make the dog smell pretty. And as Tig Lily said, huskies are whiners. If you look at any video on YouTube right now, huskies are very vocal. But it's so nice because the dog comes back. He's got a bandana. He smells good. He's happy. And it's worth it. To me, it's
he's
worth it. It's worth it because think about it. You're crawling in, you're next to the bathtub or you're in the shower, and the dog knows he's getting a bath and he's not happy about it.
oh yeah.
Yeah. And so to me, it's just easy.
So wait a minute. Is there a disagreement between you and your better half as to whether or not this should be paid for? Is that what I'm sensing here?
Oh, you could say that.
Maybe.
Yes, you could say
So
that.
do you not brush your dog?
Yes, we do. We do. But
Oh,
the problem,
okay.
and here is my philosophy on brushing the dog. I think that Kona creates hair as he's being brushed because I can sweep up a Wookie in our kitchen every single day
Yeah.
because he sheds everywhere. And plus, being half German Shepherd, half Husky, he's got an undercoat, and that undercoat can be a mess. So to me, it supports the local economy. It makes the dog feel good. These are
Here,
my
here we
these
go.
yeah, these are my
Yeah.
justifications. And for $70, come on, that's two cigars and a drink. I mean,
Right. You're wasting two cigars and a drink. I think you do it for the bandana. You really
well,
put an emphasis on the bandana.
you know me well, sir.
Yeah. Okay. And what do they smell? Does he use Penhaligans or what do they put on your dog after?
Oh, that was the best suggestion in the world. That's a great idea.
Bespoke dog fragrance. Uh oh.
Hey, we could be on to something
It's
here.
the next merch. Drinks and Dave's dog fragrance spray.
Oh, and you know what? Here's one that we have not talked about. This is one tomorrow being the 4th of July. And by the way, happy
Mm.
Independence Day to everybody. Hopefully, you're going to have some fun. But the worst DIY project is the infamous backyard firework display. Everybody has one of those stories. In our case, fireworks are illegal in the state of Arizona as far as the ones that shoot up into the air, other than those that are professionals, hence professionals. Now, can we just drive across the border to New Mexico and buy every explosive device known to humanity? Absolutely. And so, what do a lot of people do? They
Mm.
go over there. Now, you also know that Arizona is one of the most arid states in the union, just like where Steven's from in Las Vegas. Well, you don't always know where a bottle rocket is going to land.
Yeah.
Now, I have a story back when I was a kid. My dad decided to invite all the neighborhood kids over. We lived on the east side of Tucson and in a regular neighborhood, and invited all the kids over for a firework extravaganza. And these kids are, we're like 8. And so my dad goes to New Mexico and buys a ton of fireworks. And we live in a regular neighborhood at that time. So my dad's lighting off fireworks and M80s and sparklers and Roman candles and all that. Well, everybody around us had pools, and we did too. And we found that a lot of these fireworks do not stop burning when they land in somebody's pool, and they keep going until they explode, and then they explode and there's bubbles of smoke. And
That's
so
cool.
the next thing that happens is the police department shows up. There is smoke everywhere. It looks like an artillery zone in the backyard. My dad looked at the cop, and I swear to you, as God is my witness, God rest his soul, my dad says, "We're not shooting off fireworks." Now, the neighbors had already been screaming at him about, stuff landing in their dog, stuff landing in their pool. And all the kids, of course, when you're young and you see a police officer, what do? You scatter.
Yeah.
And so my dad got a nice little ticket for that. But yeah, so fireworks.
Well, so I'm curious what PB's thinking about that it's the worst DIY project. Is it the worst for injury, or is it the worst just because you pit? in places like where you and I live, what we can buy is not all that exciting.
Yeah, it's just the
Yet you
ground
still have
stuff,
to
right?
pay $100, and you're
Hmm.
sitting there watching it, knowing it's the best you can do, but it's not all that
Yeah, and then you end up burning your
really.
patio. And that brings up a whole nother subject of using a power washer for the first time, and the triggers on these power washers. They're not easy triggers. They're either
No,
full on hurricane or off. And if you're not holding on to that extremely tightly, it's pretty hilarious what it looks like. And see, yes, what Pantea just said, Kona deserves a day spa. I hope
I
somebody in
like
this house is listening to that.
I like this one.
Pampered owners, pampered dog. Exactly.
I don't know if he agrees with that. I think it's just a statement of
Well, I don't even know
what's
if
happening.
I don't know if Steven's ever told us if he has any critters.
Well,
Well, Rich is
oh,
mentioning
I,
Hot
I
Wheels and
had that
bottle
up there,
rockets.
Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The scotch is having its effect. No, I'm kidding. We used to do one thing better. Is in the older cars, they had rain channels. They had rain channels on the doors, and so a friend of mine and I, we would get bottle rockets, and this didn't even have to be in Fourth of July. We would get bottle rockets and take off on the road. And then what you do is you take the bottle rocket, you put it in that little launch tube, which is it's just like a launch tube, and you light it with a lighter. And what's so cool is he's in front of you, and the bottle rocket shoots straight out and explodes right in front of his windshield. Pretty cool, actually.
Good old days, boy. The stuff we learn lessons from, huh?
So, but yeah, I think we would agree, at least I would, anyways, that I think it's a good idea to hire a professional for specific items.
Yeah,
Electrical, plumbing, tree trimming. I
yeah. Laying out your clothes in the morning, things like that. I agree.
wow, I'm impressed.
There you
Tell
there-
us about that story.
No, I'm just saying that if you want things done right, you pay a professional, and you don't have a valet.
No, I don't.
No.
And
Oh,
we call them down here in southern Arizona. We call them valets. We call them valets.
valets.
Oh, but actually, I guess you could consider DIY in cooking too. You really could. Do you go on YouTube and see this wonderful, wonderful dish, and you're thinking, okay, do I want to go to a high-end restaurant and spend $80, or can I cook
Yes.
it at home?
No.
Yeah, exactly, because it never ever turns out the way that it looks on the YouTube channel, ever.
Well, plus I'm not a skilled chef, so anything that's over 4 ingredients is past kind of my level of comfort. So,
Well, I mean, it's funny. I mean, do you have any recipes that your parents, that your parents have brought down over time that you will make, that bring back that we have one that's a Jello salad. And how did we know that DIY was going to become recipe dime too? But you take if you can find apricot Jello. If you can't find apricot Jello,
what?
you can just wait. If you can't find apricot Jello, you find orange Jello. So you take the orange Jello or the apricot Jello and you cook it. Once it's cooked, you let it set up a little bit, and then you pour in sliced bananas and pineapple. Then you let it firm up. Okay, then it gets better. Then cook yourself some vanilla pudding. Take that vanilla
What
pudding.
the?
Wait a minute. Take that vanilla pudding and mix it with Cool Whip.
Yeah.
Then, so it becomes almost like a frosting but thinner. Then you take the Jello once it's set up in a square pan, and you layer that wondrous, beautiful vanilla Cool Whip topping on top of it, and then you sprinkle salty walnuts all over the top of it. That was
Yeah.
something that my mom made, and we have to make double batches of it because in the summer it's so refreshing, but it is so good. So that's one recipe that, and then of course I make Puerto Rican food because my aunt taught me how to do that. But those are DIY stuff that I will do.
Wow. Well, so my dad was a minister, so I grew up at church potlucks, and we had lots of Jello salads. I have never seen anything like that in my life. But that sounds like one of those things you'd have to try.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's just wonderful. PB, I was just he was just saying you didn't put that in there. Okay, has either one of you tried in your jobs tried DIY fixes in a crunch, even though you knew better? Well, being a barber, if I have something that I have to fix, it usually involves a band-aid and alum, because and the problem is you can't fix a bad haircut, as we know. And I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. I'm probably going to get letters, but we fix supercuts haircuts, and the problem is a perfect example, at least in my job, is what they call a cowlick. And what a cowlick is an area of the hair that just grows differently than everywhere else on your body. What most barbers will do is try to cut that short. Well, when they cut it too short, it gets it stands up. There's no way to fix it. You just have to tell the person, sorry, dude, this is coming down to scalp, and we're gonna have to let it grow out. So in my case, yeah, there's really not a lot of DIY fixes that you can do. However, if you're doing the behind the neck and you're doing a line, yeah, you just if the line's a little crooked, you just go a little higher. So
yeah.
how about
The
you?
the
And
one.
you,
The, well, I wouldn't say it, even though you knew better, because in medicine you wouldn't want to just kind of fly by the seat of your pants. But the DIY thing that we were always great at. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like this white tube mesh that's super stretchy, and it comes in various widths, right?
co-wrap, that type of stuff.
No, no, it's like a fishnet,
Okay.
but it'll stretch like crazy. And especially in the burn unit, you would have to, have dressings on people, but you didn't want to use tape or anything. So we got super inventive with being able to I could make a tank top out of this stuff, and you would rip off the ties of a face mask and tie the shoulders on and stuff like that. So we got pretty inventive with stuff like that, um, but not out of. So go
Yes,
back
it
to
will.
saying
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you
yeah.
were.
I answered it in the thing. Yeah, yeah, it'll
Yeah.
grow back the same way. Once the cowlick's there, the cowlick's there. But going back to the barber thing, I think PB actually meant the barber chair. I have what they call a Koken electric lift barber chair from 1940, and no, I will not attempt to fix that at all. I call somebody for that because if I screw that up, there's no parts for it. So
Do you have one of those, or you got the foot pedal and you
no, no, I have a foot pedal, but it's electric. So it
from the
raises,
40s?
yeah, it raises and lowers
Wow.
automatically. Yeah, my barber instructor actually sold it to me, and yeah,
Steve,
no, I won't mess with that.
yeah, Steven, I can't do that because could you imagine the tan lines you get from wearing mesh? You know, that wouldn't work
There's a
out.
movie, and I can't think of the movie where there was somebody wearing a mesh tank top, and
I don't know.
the subject matter was weird, and Trunker says that he is banned from the kitchen in his own home. Dropped a rather expensive chef knife that I bought from HRH on my foot. Like, oh, ow. Like a harpoon it was. Woof.
H. Well, and this guy, I don't know. He's the only one that was alive in the 40s that's in the bar today. So I don't know why he's asking you.
Well, it's amazing, when you talk about DIY projects and stuff like that. And I think we have to admit, those of us all here that are married, that if it wasn't for our better halves, there's a good chance we probably would not be alive when we tried DIY projects. Because DIY projects for men have a tendency to be ego driven, where I can do that. I can. Why do I need to pay somebody to do that?
Well, I shout out to your wife for keeping you off the ladder. I tell you, plenty of people wind up in the emergency department because of ladder stuff. So
Well,
I'm all in favor for
the biggest thing that's going to keep hospitals going. You mentioned this over on the forum, is pickleball.
pickleball. Yeah.
Pickleball.
So I didn't post the whole. Yeah. So I posted this thing about this article came out that all sorts of emergency room visits are related to pickleball now, and it's the more seasoned people tend to be playing pickleball instead of tennis. and so they get these injuries. But the other problem is that at their age they don't heal like they used to, so you get these injuries that they can't really recover from, and it's going
Hmm.
to be the new epidemic, right,
Yeah.
of senior care pickleball supportive care or
Well,
something.
it's amazing how popular that game is becoming. Not even for just the elderly, but it's going crazy. And Rich brings up a good point about why we like to do DIY projects, and it's because we need the greatest next tools.
Oh, dude, 5 years ago I was able to buy an angle grinder for the first time in my life or something. Oh, that thing is sweet. Anything that shoots off sparks and stuff, yeah,
Well,
I
that's like
want that.
we years ago. I worked at a Texaco gas station, and the Snap-on guy would always show up. And Snap-on are like the most expensive tools on the planet, but you don't know why you need them but you know that you do. You want
Yeah.
them. And I do need to ask you one last thing because this is a DIY thing. I understand that your lovely wife, I believe it was your wife, maybe I'm wrong, bought you a traditional
Oh boy.
kebab
Oh,
cooker,
yeah, yeah.
the grill. So you have to tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know traditional or not, but so, Persian kebabs are, how do I quickly explain it? They've got the kind of a meat kebab that's kind of ground beef and onion and turmeric and all that stuff. That their kebab skewers are actually like an inch wide and very thin, and you take this mixture and squish it along the thing,
So
and
they
so
like a
they,
knife, almost like a knife, like a sword, kind of.
yeah, like more, yeah, they look like a sword, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and and so the grills that you use for these have no grate on top, but they've got little slots so that you can put these swords up on their edge and roast them this way and that way. And I tell you, that is my favorite Persian dish to this day. When
Now, is it very similar to, like, how when they mix ground beef and lamb when you're getting a gyro, how they have the roll, they pack the meat around and the rotisserie. Is it similar to that kind of?
No,
Oh,
well,
okay.
no, it tastes different because of the turmeric. And again, it's almost 1-to-1 ground beef and onion, so it's
Oh,
very onion heavy. So when you have like a little vapors afterwards, it's not that pleasant. But the best way to eat it is you have like very thin flatbread, and you put in fresh basil leaves and wrap it up. But and it is delicious. It is
well, it
delicious.
sounds good. And well, the thing is, I know that there's somebody here listening that when you said the word turmeric, that's all she's hearing now is turmeric. But that sounds wonderful. Now, do you cook it over a charcoal or a gas?
Sure. It's charcoal, and as you know, I'm a gas grill guy, right? Because I kind
Mm-hmm.
of thought that I didn't want to deal with setting up the charcoal. And so the other thing that this taught me is that getting the coals going wasn't nearly as labor intensive as I thought. I said I'm never going to do charcoal because I get home and I want to cook. And I realized that, what is it? Another 15, 20 minutes. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. So I get
Now,
that big
is
lump
oh, well, I
charcoal.
was going to say, do you get the lump charcoal or like the
Yeah.
Kingsford bags? I mean, you get the big lump
No.
charcoal.
Yeah.
And I know that Pantea just wrote that you serve it with lavash bread. Now, how is lavash bread different than like the bread that you would get with a gyro? I mean, I know it's probably thinner is it thinner and crispier? Is it like a naan? Is it something like that or?
No, it's thinner than naan, maybe a
Okay.
third. And it comes in big sheets. It's probably the sheets that we buy it from. I think that they've got it at Trader Joe's if you've got Trader Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know, a foot and a half by 2 feet, these
So
sheets of bread. Yeah.
so you prep the ground beef, and I assume that you use probably what a 70-30 or an 80-20 as far as that, and then mix the onions in it with the spices. Now, is there any
Yeah,
other spices
no,
besides turmeric?
there is. I'm forgetting, and she'll tell us. There's garlic in there, salt and pepper, and what's the other Persian spice you throw in there? She'll put it in the chat. But and this is where I screwed up because I'd never made it before myself. So I bought 80-20 based on a recipe, and the onion you put in a food processor, and you
Mm-hmm.
basically make a paste out of it and
Really?
squish
Okay.
all the juice out of it. and then you and so when her dad makes it, he buys like I don't know, I think it's not chuck, but he buys different cuts of meat and puts it through a food grinder,
Okay.
and they'll do it many times. Well, I just bought ground beef,
Okay.
and part of the problem was that was still too coarse. So he said you got to put the ground beef in the food processor and
Oh
make a
wow.
paste out of that too, because it's got to be a certain consistency to hold together on the skewer.
But it's got to
And
be. But it's got to just be melt in your mouth
oh, if you
type.
do it right, they're so and that's the best part. So to get it off the skewer, you fold it in the bread and pull the skewer out, and then you got the juices soaking into the bread. That's the best part. If you get the
Hold on a second. I need to check for flights to San Francisco. Give me a minute. Now, do you serve that with? What do you normally serve that with? Like a salad or on rice or?
Persian rice, with what they call the tadik on the bottom. It's the crispy rice that kind of sits there
Oh, okay. See, like in
and
Puerto
gets
Rican
crispy.
food, we call that pagao, which is a crispy rice. Now, let me ask you a
Oh,
question. This may sound dumb here, but the difference between Persian food and Indian food, is it a pretty wide difference or is it? Oh, it is. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they also will serve it with just fresh raw white onion.
Now, is there a
Yeah, but
sauce usually, or is it just plain?
no, it's just this beef, and you put herbs in there, and just yeah,
So
it's
my
delicious.
question then is, if you've got 10 skewers, what's everybody else eating?
Yeah, that's right. I told her I need more skewers
Oh, that
because
just sounds
yeah, yeah, and
incredible.
that's the grilled tomatoes. You just shove tomatoes onto skewers and you roast them over the.
Well, because when I was in the military and I was in Iraq and Iran, we had something, and that's probably what it was. I just remember what you said about taking the bread, and I remember it was a food stand, and I remember him pulling the skewer off, taking the bread and sliding it off, and it's like you don't want to leave. You just want to kind of camp out there and just throw him your wallet and say, "Feed me until I pass out." It just
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
sounds wonderful, wonderful. So, well, we've gone. Oh, this is our longest show to date. So, do we have any other DIY questions or anything else? And what we'd like to ask of all of our barflies is either email Dave or myself, or email us at drinksanddaves at gmail.com for show ideas, because we're really trying to build this channel. But, a lot of times this was kind of an impromptu, and it actually worked out really well. But we'd like to know what you guys would like to see. And we're trying to steer, I mean, we'll do shaving related stuff. But that's kind of what our other channels are for. But we'd like to steer away from that. And we'd like to hear from you for us to do different subjects, because we're trying our best to do our shows every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, and we'd like to hear from you guys. So either you put it in the chat, or email us, or PM us at the other forum. We'd really like to hear that, and because we want to make this channel accessible to everyone, because obviously our shaving channels are very much a niche type thing, people that care about wet shaving and stuff. And we want this to go out to everyone, women, men, even kids, for lack of a better, thing. That we want subjects that we can talk to everybody about. And it's really critical for you guys in the bar, so to speak, we try to make this as interactive as possible. And I think this show, Dave, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I think this has been one of the most interactive shows
Yeah,
we've had so
this was
far, and
great.
we
Yeah.
really appreciate it more than anything else. So, on behalf of Dave and myself, we'd like to wish everybody a very, very safe and happy Independence, 4th of July. Hopefully, you'll be spending it with family. And are there any final questions for us before we sign off? And Dave, I'll let you look at that in case there is.
Yeah, no, and I'll just add not just ideas, but as we mentioned before, if you have any interesting hobbies, jobs, and all that stuff, we're looking for other guests to have on.
Exactly.
Uh,
And if you'd be willing to come on the show, we'd certainly appreciate it. And yes, Stephen, you are now a barfly. And I think we need to tap Stephen, and he's probably going to pass out when he hears me say this, because him and I have an interesting banter that we go back and forth on, because we love each other so much. And I mean that in all sincerity. But this man is a beer aficionado. This guy knows beer,
Mm,
and I think maybe at one point we need to have him on the show to talk about beer. So,
yeah. All
well,
righty.
if there's nothing else, we want to thank everybody, and we certainly appreciate you guys showing up for Drinks and Daves. And please join us next week at 5 p.m. Pacific for the Drinks and Dave Show. And we thank everybody so much. Tell your friends, subscribe, and we will get you in there as soon as we can.
Later,
Take care,
all.
everybody.